JJ and I back here at the lab. This is Trojans Lab, brought to you by Cooper Tires. Cooper Tires knows that the 4 tires on your vehicle are what connect you to the road and help keep you safe. Count on Cooper and visit coopertires.com. Today we thank the head coach, Clay Helton, joining us as always, coming here on a Tuesday straight from the practice field. And I'm sure you were happy to get back to work. What is the number one thing that you want to work on and get cleaned up this week?
I think right now is just developing some young players that are having to step up right now because of some injuries, and we'll see where we are later in the week with those older kids. But right now it's about getting an Austin Jackson ready and Andrew Voorhees ready, Clayton Johnston, a couple of young tight ends, and Josh Follow, Eric Kromenhoek. Keep developing these wideouts that stepped up and made some nice plays. You just had one on with Tyler Vaughns, who really is the light has come on for him. So just the development of our young kids that are being thrust to the forefront right now to help us win games.
By the way, Tyler and I had a disagreement on who the best Bishop Vermont wide receiver of all time was. So we had that discussion, and we'll continue it after this show. But, going back to this team, anytime you're in adverse situations, it always comes down to the character of the team. And usually when it comes down to the character, it can go really good or really bad. What's the character of this team?
Well, I tell you what, I was looking forward to getting to that day's practice. As a coach, you always hurt. You hurt for the kids, but when we stepped off that practice, we stepped out of that game the other night, I mean, there were grown men crying in the locker room. It meant so much to them. Took a 45-minute bus ride from the stadium to the airport. Not one sound, not one word. And then to see their faces coming on that plane, you could truly see that they care for each other, and it hurt them to lose. We hadn't felt that in a while. And today was our first day back out, to be able to see, okay, are they going to be moping, or do they have any after effects? And it was our best practice of the year. Okay. I mean, the guys really, I thought, stepped up, came to work, and they got their jaws set. I really wish we could play tomorrow, to be honest with you. So it was good to see as a coach. And it's one of the things I told them at the end of the practice, say, guys, this is going to be a special team because of the way you're handling it. Leaders don't have bad days. Right. We have some dynamic leadership on our team right now with Cam Smith, Uchenna Nwosu, Sam Darnold, those type of guys, and they willed everybody else today to say, hey, let's get back on the horse and get going, and that was really neat to see.
The first thing you talked about after the game when you talked to us was third downs. I mean, that was what you talked about going into the game, so it certainly didn't surprise you. When you look back at it, is it a third down thing or is it a first and second down thing because you weren't in a lot of third and longs? Why weren't you able to stay on the field?
I thought it was a first and second down. Versus that defense, it kind of reminds you of Stanford. That if you get in third and long, that was the number one defense in our conference, only giving up 262 yards a game. Tremendous pressure defense, one of the best tackle for loss guys in our conference in Hercules, and just felt if we had a bunch of third and longs, it was going to be a long night. And you look up, all of a sudden you have 3 linemen that you expected to be there aren't there anymore, and over half your third downs were 3rd and 7+, which is we consider third and long. And because of that, you're dancing around the pocket a lot, throwing off timing. But I really thought we just didn't get in a flow offensively on first and second down to be able to create some third and short situations.
And I talked about that a little bit earlier, the difficulty for, T and Tyson to have to make that in-game adjustment. I mean, you go through the week, you have a game plan, it looks great, everybody's happy about it. Then you lose some guys, and all of a sudden, because there's different guys, that means a different game plan. It's almost like, if you change quarterbacks or running backs, you got to make a different game plan. How difficult was that part of it, for them? I mean, I know it's going to be tough, but how difficult was that part of it when you're experiencing it during the game, trying to make those changes?
No question. I mean, you never can anticipate all of a sudden 3 starting linemen are going to be gone just like that in a poof. And credit to T. I thought he did a wonderful job of all of a sudden saying, you know what, the protections we're not holding up as well as we should in protection. Let's move the launch point of the quarterback. Let's go ahead and sprint. Let's go ahead and naked. Let's RPO quick game. And that's really how we move the ball in that game and put us in a situation to have an opportunity to have the ball last with an opportunity to win. And I thought that adjustment by him in game was nice. It really was.
How about the running game, Coach? Again, it seems like the last few weeks they've tried to load the box on you. The numbers weren't so bad this week because Rojo breaks the long run, but otherwise it was sort of, again, hard to find that rhythm. Is there anything you can do other than pass more effectively to be able to run more effectively?
Yeah, I think the passing game, being efficient in the passing game helps. And then you saw, again, it kind of reminded you of 3 weeks ago versus Texas. All of a sudden the run isn't going. What should be there was all the quick game hitches that you saw outside were just really easy, and that's usually what ends up happening. But it's one of those things that I thought Rojo made some really, really nice hard runs in that game. He hit 100 plus again. I think that's every game he's played. Right. And we just at the end of the day, we need to just create a better flow offensively. I know it will. In a season you have highs and lows. It is a roller coaster. It's still an offense that's averaging 35 points a game and 460 yards, and we have high standards.
Right.
I mean, we have the highest of all standards here, and we'll get better. That's what you want as a coach, is to be able to look at it and say, you know what, we're entering October. It's time for us we're here. Now we got to take that step up, and we got to be playing our best football by November. And we've been pretty good at that over the last 2 years. So I'm looking forward to seeing how we do this year.
Certainly last year it gives you the perfect blueprint. You're 4-1 instead of 1-3, so a much better place to start from. But finding that trajectory certainly needs to start this weekend with USC, Oregon State, Saturday, 1 p.m. on Pac-12 Network and ESPN LA 710. We will talk about that Oregon State game next, plus more on Trojans Live. Jordan Moore, John Jackson, one more segment with the head coach of USC football, Clay Helton, and we've been talking mostly offense. That was sort of the storyline that came out of that game. But I'll ask you what I asked JJ early on, which is defensively, were there any real issues that coming out of that game, or did you just see a defense that wore down having to be on the field a lot?
Yeah, I thought our defense played exceptional. We talked about in that game that they were going to make their yards. It's hard to stop Washington State. They're going to put up the yards. What our goal was to limit their numbers. They were a 44-point-a-game team, and we really said, hey, guys, we got to get turnovers or we got to make them kick field goals. They can drive the distance, but let's make them kick field goals. And you look at the red zone, they were 1 for 4, 3 field goals, 1 touchdown, and it really kept us in the ball game and gave us an opportunity to win down the stretch. But you never want to be able to see, when you look up as a head coach and your defense is 81 plays to your offense is 58, because at the end of the day, you're going to have a tired defense at the end.
What's the best, Monday morning quarterback, what's the best way to play Washington State? Is it lining up man-to-man because all the receivers, or is it better to go with a zone concept or a combination of both? How do you
I like mixing it up, and I tell you what, I thought Clancy did a wonderful job, because there was times you saw Luke really hold on to the ball. We had 5 sacks in that game, and really I thought there were a couple times that, especially I thought Marvell did a really nice job. They were disguised in the 2 safeties, rolling back and forth, showing 1 high, going to 2, showing 2, going to 1. All of a sudden, Chris is coming off the edge and created a big sack for us. I thought the disguises that they did over the last 2 weeks now versus Cal and Washington State have really helped us confuse a quarterback a little bit.
Well, the easiest solution to many of your problems would be to get some guys healthy. How is it looking on that front? Is there hope of that some guys are going to get back here?
The 2 guys that came back today, Toa was able to practice today. I think if things go well through the week, that he's going to be able to play. He looked good today. And Stephen Mitchell looked well today. So we still got to get through the week and see if they progress. But those are 2 positives right now on a long list that I'm hoping that we get some more back, to be honest with you.
Now is it a situation where the injuries might get so deep that you might even have to change maybe even the style of defense you play, maybe to put an extra linebacker on the field or an extra defensive end? I know Christian Rector sort of plays that hybrid guy back and forth at end and defensive tackle. What kind of adjustment you have to make there?
Yeah, really, if we were in this situation last year, JJ, I would say it'd be really hard. But right now, our numbers are good. We're able to put some other guys in there. Now, we need to use a Connor Murphy and a Wale Butiku and rest a Christian Rector and a Uchenna in that area. We've been doing that interiorly with our defensive tackles, rolling them in and out as you've seen. But we have the numbers to be able to be as good as anybody we play. We never use injuries as an excuse. They don't pay you to make excuses. They pay you to find answers. And thank goodness that we have the depth. They're young. They're experienced, but that's why they put coach in front of your name, to prepare them and to get them ready to go play a game versus Oregon State.
Well, how much more can you prepare them, at least knowing that you're going to need them? As you talked about, it's one thing to have 3 new starters in the offensive line. It's another to sort of have to do it on the fly. Are you able to maybe open up more of the book this week and prepare them a little bit better, knowing that's what the scenario will be going into the game? Yeah,
and to have that experience. I mean, to have Andrew Voorhees and Austin Jackson, Clayton Johnson go into that environment they had last week, that's just going to be as tough as it gets. I mean, it's not going to get any tougher than that. And to be able to have that experience and learn from it, you're just going to be – it builds their confidence. It builds the coaching staff's confidence. And you can add more and more and more and more. It's one of the reasons that I've always been thankful of what we do on Mondays. We bring out the vets for a little bit. The vets leave the practice field, and then we do a developmental practice with those 2s and 3s, because there may be one day that you look up and you were out in your 4-string center with Nico Fala, and you got to beat UCLA.
If you went on that Washington State trip, you were ready to go.
Oh, I know. and I credit our coaches. I mean, we lost that game, but we put ourselves in a position versus a top 25 team with a lot of injuries, with some young kids that went out there and they functioned in that environment, and we had an opportunity to win. We just didn't get it done, and we'll get it done.
I know you talked about several other players on the defense possibly being contributors, and I know also that Clancy's tradition has been short on the rotations. He likes to play anywhere from 11 to 13 players. Do you think there's going to be some give in that just because of the situation you guys are in?
Yeah, he used it this past game. You saw Levi Jones go in. You saw Wale went in there. He's instituted not only a nickel but a dime package, getting YK on the field. So he's conformed a little bit to be able to use more players and more packages against the 10 personnel teams, the 4 wide packages, going to dime, 3 wide, going to nickel, using base and our big people. So he's done a nice job of starting to institute more players into the game plan.
After days like Friday, I bet you wish you were a baseball manager, then you could just play the next day and you didn't have to think about it for a week. It's actually a week and a day. Yeah. But what do we know about Oregon State? You do finally get back out there on Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be nice to get back and hopefully, go get a victory, get this bad taste out of our mouth. But we're playing an Oregon State team that's kind of back is against the wall. Got a lot of respect for Coach Anderson and what he does. They're going through injuries. After losing a quarterback, they're going to start Garrettson in the game, who's a little bit different than Luke is. He's a runner also, so you got to prepare for some zone read. It sounds like, and I feel bad for the kid because I think he's a really good player, but Ryan Nall, just watching the tape of the injury he had last week, it did not look good. And he was a kid that was a good runner, very good out of the backfield also, and just a good kid. You can tell you like how he plays. Doesn't look like he's going to play. So we're going to see Thomas Tyner, who we know from Oregon, and Pierce, and then try to deal with some big wideouts that they have on the outside. So challenge for our defense again, but they'll rise up. They'll get ready for them.
Excited to be back home.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, it is.
I love the Coliseum.
Yeah, well, you've never lost there, so certainly lots of reason to love it. And knocking on wood to keep that streak alive going in. Saturday, 1 o'clock. JJ now go on 11 a.m. with Sean Cody for your pregame show right here on ESPN LA 710. Games on Pac-12 Network if you can't make it down to the Coliseum. We're going to come back and wrap up Trojans Live. Thank you, as always, to the head coach, Clay Helton.